So the partial government shutdown has now entered its third week, as we've been talking about. President Trump planning to address the nation directly tomorrow night. Before then heading to Texas, he'll visit the U.S.-Mexico border on Thursday. Speaking of Texas, the Attorney General from that state, Ken Paxton, joins us now. Good to see you, sir. As always, thank you for coming on. I know it's been talked about that the president has at least considered the option of declaring a national emergency. And then there have been legal questions brought up about whether that might allow him to move some funds that have already been appropriated over to border wall funding. So that's in your state, because that's where the border is. You have a legal opinion on that in terms of whether that's possible even?
Oh, yeah, I think he definitely has a case to be made. Obviously, a federal judge is going to make the decision in the end, and maybe the U.S. Supreme Court. But he definitely has a case to be made, given the fact that we have to deal with human trafficking as a result of the border issues. We have to deal with drug smuggling and cartels. We have to deal with all kinds of crimes that we document here in Texas. And so just because no president has done anything about it in the past doesn't mean that we don't have a crisis on our border.
So it seems to me, though, that just reading between the lines of what you're saying, that he has a case that could be made, but eventually would be decided in the courts, that's a tough road. Would it be easier? Well, I don't know if anything's easy in Washington, but the better way is just to cut a deal, you think? Or?
Well, sure. I mean, if that's possible. I mean, the Democrats seem to want to do nothing about this. They want it as a political issue. They've had years and years and years to address this. They've never done it. We begged for it in Texas for decades. And so I'm not confident the Democrats actually want to fix this problem. So the courts may be where we end up being. How
does all this play out then? Because there are questions about, I know the last we heard from the White House, or from the vice president, I believe, is that they were, inquiring through the White House counsel about how they would go about that. But say the Democrats don't give in, and it doesn't appear now as if they have any incentive to do so, the president's got to make a choice, right? He could either cut some sort of a deal that doesn't have all his funding, or he could go the national emergency route. Which choice do you think he'd make?
Typically these presidents are pretty successful when it comes to government shutdown. So I think he knows what he's doing. I think there's a good chance in the end, whether it's through some national emergency power or through negotiating with the Democrats, I think ultimately he will get most of what he wants. It's just really a matter of time.
Timing. Okay. I do want to get your thoughts on another important issue that certainly hits close to home for you. The Justice Department asking to delay that ObamaCare lawsuit because of the shutdown. House Democrats moving to intervene in the case as well. I know Texas has been leading that lawsuit. So I guess the question is, what's next? What can we expect to happen here?
Well, so it's interesting that the House is intervening. It already has a final judgment. It's already on appeal. So I don't know what interesting legal powers Nancy Pelosi has to get in, but that'll be interesting. My suggestion to her is if she doesn't like how this is going, she has the power to actually fix Obamacare and make it work. So obviously, we're going to be on appeal, and I think we'll be successful in the end. I think we're clearly right on the Constitution. We're clearly right on the law.
So this, though, is being delayed slightly by the shutdown as well. So this is another thing that could get dragged out for a while. I mean, how long might this take to play out for those interested parties that want to know?
I don't know if it's dramatically going to affect us. I mean, these cases take a little while to get through the courts, especially when they're so important. I think our last big one like this took about 1.5 years to get to the U.S. Supreme Court. So, if we add a month or two, it's not going to impact us substantially. And so ultimately, we're going to get the result we want. And that's what we are looking forward to.
And the Democrats getting involved as the last point, how does that affect that? I guess the logic there is that this is a federal government policy and the current administration is not defending it. So the Democrats' argument say, oh, all right, the White House, you're not defending it, we'll defend it. Does that make any sense? Or?
No, it affects our case in little or none, because California is already defending the government position that Obamacare is constitutional. So there's already somebody on the other side. They're the ones that appealed it to the Fifth Circuit after we won at the district court level. Right. So this is more grandstanding, more politics. It doesn't affect our case. I'm not sure they're going to be allowed in. Even if they are, doesn't really matter. California is leading the charge, and right. we feel like either way we'll be successful.
Right. So there's already lawyers for on both sides of the case. It's just it would be additional.
Correct.
Okay. We've obviously been following that. We'll continue to follow it. Ken Paxton will check back in with you. Thanks for coming on today.